On the night of March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 prepared for what should have been a completely ordinary journey. The massive Boeing 777 aircraft stood ready at Kuala Lumpur International Airport, its destination set for Beijing, China. On board were 227 passengers from a multitude of nations, along with 12 dedicated crew members, all anticipating a standard overnight flight across the South China Sea. The pre-flight checks were completed without any issues, the weather was clear, and everything pointed toward a smooth and uneventful trip. No one could have possibly foreseen that this particular flight was about to become one of the greatest and most baffling mysteries in the entire history of modern aviation. At 12:41 a.m. local time, the powerful engines of the Boeing 777 roared to life, and the aircraft gracefully lifted off the runway, ascending into the dark Malaysian sky. For the first 38 minutes of the flight, everything proceeded exactly as planned. The aircraft climbed to its cruising altitude, following its designated flight path toward Vietnam. Communications between the pilots and air traffic control were calm and professional, with no indication of any distress or deviation from the norm. The passengers were likely settling in for the night, some reading, some watching movies, and others trying to sleep, all blissfully unaware of the strange and unsettling events that were about to unfold in the cockpit. The last verbal communication from the aircraft came at 1:19 a.m., when one of the pilots, believed to be First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, spoke to Malaysian air traffic controllers. His final words were a simple and routine sign-off: "Good night. Malaysian 370. These words carried no hint of alarm or trouble. They were the standard farewell as the plane was about to pass from Malaysian to Vietnamese airspace. This calm farewell would become an infamous and chilling final message, marking the last moment that Flight MH370 was a normal commercial airliner. Moments later, it would simply vanish from civilian radar screens, leaving behind a silence that has now lasted for over a decade. The disappearance of a modern Boeing 777, an aircraft equipped with sophisticated communication and tracking systems, was simply unthinkable. In an era where global connectivity is taken for granted, the idea that a plane carrying 239 people could just disappear without a trace seemed impossible. Yet, that is precisely what happened. As the minutes turned into hours and the plane failed to check in with Vietnamese air traffic control or arrive in Beijing, a sense of confusion quickly turned into one of deep and profound alarm. The world woke up to the bewildering news that a massive passenger jet had vanished, beginning a desperate search and a mystery that continues to captivate and haunt us to this day. Just 2 minutes after that final calm goodnight, at 1:21 a.m., something highly unusual occurred. The aircraft's transponder, a device that transmits its identity, altitude, and location to air traffic control radars, was suddenly switched off. This was not a malfunction. Official investigations later concluded that this action had to be done manually from within the cockpit. By silencing the transponder, Flight MH370 became invisible to civilian air traffic controllers. It was at this precise moment, as it flew over the Gulf of Thailand between Malaysia and Vietnam, that the plane effectively became a ghost, embarking on a new, unapproved, and utterly mysterious flight path that no one on the ground could track using conventional methods. Although the plane was lost to civilian radar, it was still being watched by another source, military radar. Data from the Malaysian military showed that MH370 did not simply disappear. Instead of continuing on its northeasterly course to Beijing, the aircraft made a sharp, deliberate turn to the west. It then flew back across the Malay Peninsula, a deviation that took it directly over populated areas. This silent, unannounced change in direction was a clear indication that the aircraft was under the control of someone who was intentionally flying it away from its intended destination. The flight continued on this new heading, flying northwest up the Strait of Malacca, before it eventually flew beyond the range of military radar at 2:22 a.m. Even after disappearing from all known radar systems, the aircraft continued to send out a faint, automated signal. For nearly 7 more hours, the plane maintained a satellite data link with a system operated by Inmarsat, a British satellite company. The system sent out hourly automated pings or handshakes to confirm that it was still logged onto the network. These pings did not contain specific location data, but analysts were able to use them to calculate the plane's approximate distance from the satellite. This groundbreaking analysis revealed that the plane had likely turned south after leaving the Strait of Malacca and had flown for hours over the vast and empty expanse of the southern Indian Ocean. The final of these electronic handshakes was received at 8:11 a.m. Calculations based on the plane's fuel capacity and flight time led investigators to a chilling conclusion. This was likely the moment the aircraft ran out of fuel. The engines would have flamed out, and the massive plane would have begun its final uncontrolled descent into the ocean below. This data allowed investigators to draw a massive arc on the map, representing all the possible endpoints for the flight. It was this seventh arc in the remote southern Indian Ocean, thousands of kilometers from any major landmass, that would become the primary focus of the long and arduous search for the missing plane. The immediate aftermath of MH370's disappearance triggered one of the largest and most complex search operations in human history. In the initial days, the effort was concentrated in the South China Sea, where the plane was last seen on civilian radar. Dozens of countries, including Malaysia, China, Vietnam, and the United States, sent ships and aircraft to scour the waters. But as the satellite data emerged, revealing the plane's probable flight path into the southern Indian Ocean, the focus shifted dramatically. The search area was immense, covering a desolate and treacherous part of the world known for its deep waters and harsh weather, often described as the Roaring Forties for its powerful winds. The underwater search, led primarily by Australia, was an unprecedented technological challenge. It focused on a 120,000 square kilometer priority zone along the seventh arc. Specialized ships equipped with sophisticated sonar equipment, including towed vehicles and autonomous underwater drones, were deployed to map the ocean floor in painstaking detail. These devices spent months slowly moving back and forth, sending sound waves into the deep to create images of the seabed, searching for any sign of wreckage. The cost of this multinational effort soared to over $150 million. Yet despite scanning an area of ocean floor the size of a large country, the main wreckage of MH370 remained stubbornly elusive. After nearly 3 years of tireless searching with no success, the official underwater search was suspended in January 2017, leaving the families of the victims in a state of painful uncertainty. However, the story was not entirely over. Beginning in July 2015, pieces of debris from an aircraft began washing ashore on the coastlines of the western Indian Ocean. The first confirmed piece was a flaperon, a part of the wing found on Reunion Island, thousands of kilometers from the search zone. Over the following years, more than 24 additional pieces were discovered in places like Mozambique, Tanzania, and Mauritius, carried across the ocean by powerful currents. While these fragments confirmed that the plane had indeed met a catastrophic end in the Indian Ocean, they provided only limited clues. Analysis of the debris, particularly the flaperon, suggested that the plane was likely in a high-speed, uncontrolled dive when it hit the water, ruling out the theory of a gentle, controlled ditching. These small, scattered pieces of the aircraft are the only physical evidence that has ever been recovered. They are tangible proof of the tragedy, but offer no answers as to why it happened, leaving the bulk of the aircraft, including the crucial flight recorders, lost in the depths of the ocean. With the main wreckage and the flight recorders, the black boxes, still missing, investigators and experts have been left to piece together what might have happened based on the limited evidence available. Several major theories have emerged, but none can be proven without finding the plane. One of the most prominent theories involves deliberate action by one of the pilots. The 2018 final report from the Malaysian government stated that the plane's deviation from its flight path was the result of manual inputs, not a mechanical failure. This has led many to consider the possibility of pilot suicide, a scenario in which the captain or first officer intentionally crashed the plane. Another leading theory is that of a hijacking, although it does not fit the typical pattern. Usually, hijackers make demands or claim responsibility, neither of which happened in the case of MH370. The plane's flight path, heading out into a remote stretch of ocean, also seems inconsistent with any logical motive for a hijacking. A third possibility is some form of catastrophic event on board, such as a fire or a rapid decompression, which could have incapacitated the crew and left the plane flying on autopilot until it ran out of fuel. However, investigators have deemed a purely mechanical failure extremely unlikely given the deliberate way the communication systems were turned off and the plane was rerouted. The mystery of Flight MH370 is important not just for the heartbroken families who deserve answers, but for the entire aviation industry. Understanding what went wrong is crucial for ensuring such a tragedy can never happen again. The disappearance highlighted vulnerabilities in aircraft tracking systems, leading to proposals for new standards that would make it impossible for a plane to simply vanish. Finding the wreckage would allow investigators to analyze the flight recorders, which would finally provide a definitive account of the aircraft's final hours and reveal the truth behind its disappearance, bringing closure to a painful and enduring global mystery. Even today, the search for answers continues. In late 2024, the Malaysian government announced its intention to approve a new search effort led by the American marine robotics company Ocean Infinity. Operating on a no-find, no-fee basis, the company plans to use new technology and analysis to scour a fresh area of the southern Indian Ocean seabed in 2025. This renewed effort brings a flicker of hope that the final resting place of Flight MH370 will one day be found. For the families and for the world, the search is a testament to the unwavering human need for truth, resolution, and the hope that one day the 239 souls aboard will finally be brought home.